Name, Melody BBW. That's an acronym. It means big, beautiful woman. It's not actually my surname. That would be silly. Age, 27. All right, for quite a few years. London, location, London, UK. Although I do like to tour because that makes me sound like a rock star. Height, 5'7", although in heels, I'm unable to walk, so don't even ask. Chest, a voluptuous 42 double D. F it. Services, I provide a soft, sensual girlfriend experience, which you are all very surprised to know does not mean I will pick up your pants whilst complaining about your mother. However, I can also be a strong, dominant mistress. I will make you do whatever I want you to do. Mainly because we both know you're going to send me a very detailed email beforehand telling me exactly what it is I should tell you to do. Now, outside of work, I enjoy the finer things in life, which is why I can often be found with a small glass of something bubbly. I am also very keen on going to galleries, and I consider myself a connoisseur of modern art. Of course, there is nothing I enjoy more than having a large weapon in my hand. Now, finally, my do-nots list. Please note, I do not do anal. Well, not unless it's on you. It's not something you thought you'd hear in a TEDx talk, is it? I do not haggle over price because I am not a second-hand car. And finally, I do not do golden showers. I might not do golden showers. If your appointment is over 2 hours long, there's a very strong possibility that we'll have to... Fortunately, I'm in a job where I can charge you £50 extra for the privilege. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, my name's Miranda, but for 7 years, that was me. And that was until 2013, where I made the very stupid and short-sighted decision, one which plunged my friends and family into a sea of despair and worry, because I gave up my full-time, lucrative career as a sex worker to become a stand-up comedian. I know what you're thinking, thank you, I know what that means, and I have it many times. I will come off stage after working solidly for at least 10 minutes, and someone will hold my hands and look in my eyes and say, that was brave. And I will think of the servicemen and women, people who are putting their lives on the line to save ours, and I will look them back in the eye and shake their hands and say, yeah, I know! No, obviously I don't. But wouldn't it be great if I could talk about being in the sex industry and people didn't think that was brave? I would love to make jokes about my life as a sex worker and everyone thought it was just as normal and just as natural as if I was talking about any other industry. As if I was a cleaner or a teacher or making coffee as a barista. Or, well, maybe not a barista. But I know that there are people out there who are going to have their arms folded and their brows furrowed, and they're going to be like, well, I don't think a prostitute has anything to laugh about. But I can assure you I do. And if you have that opinion, think about where you're getting it from. Have you spoken to one of us? Have you watched or seen anything written by a sex worker? I mean, chances are you have, you just don't know it. We're everywhere. And as you can see, we come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. So my idea, I would like to gently suggest to you, when a sex worker talks, you listen. If you want to write about sex workers, ask us. If you want to make laws that affect us, consult us. There should be nothing about us without us. Now, unfortunately, something very strange seems to happen when I put the words sex and work together. people get this weird fog come over them. It's like a cloud that's made of judgment and morality and stereotypes. They go to a part of their brain where all they can think of is abuse and drugs and neon lights. And so I found myself with a very serious reason for going into comedy. I watched for years on TV and films, whilst the sex industry as I knew it was misrepresented. I didn't see anyone that I knew to be a sex worker. I always saw the sex work industry as either being people who were abused or as tall, statuesque models. There was never anyone who looked like me or the women I knew. So after a few years of watching this, I thought, fuck it. I'll do it myself. Thanks. You may have noticed that I'm very good at talking about my favourite subject, which is me. So, I know you have questions. Mainly, let's sort this out, shall we? Let's just say that I served a very niche but very grateful market. Now, there are certain assumptions that get made about me because of my weight. Some people think that I don't enjoy having sex when I look like this. Some people think that I can't have sex when I look like this. And so I'm often asked, well, why did you become a sex worker? And the answer, there's many reasons why, but I think the answer which will resonate in a room full of people who are ambitious and seek success is that I became a sex worker out of sheer bloody-minded defiance. I do not like being told what I can or cannot do. Actually, I'm sure there's quite a few in here who love being told what to do, and that's where ladies like me come in. Something else that they say about going into sex work is, well, surely you have to do it out of financial need. And yeah, that is true, because I need to pay my rent. We go into any job because of financial need. And so another assumption that gets made about me is because I'm fat, therefore I must be lazy and stupid. And so when I moved to London and I was trying to find a job, I found myself in a series of dead-end jobs that I hated. And so I made the choice one day where I thought, well, I could either go into a call centre where I would pray for earthquakes and atom bombs and alien invasions, just so I didn't have to go to work that day. Or I could do a job where I worked from home, doing something I enjoyed, where I earned a lot more money, and which was, quite frankly, a bit of a turn-on. And so I put an advert up, and my first client came along, and he wanted the girlfriend experience, which, if you didn't know, or if you're pretending you don't know, quite a few. But that basically means sex. It was nothing that I hadn't done with previous boyfriends. And so I got to learn on my first day that I could have great sex with a hot guy for a shitload of cash. Wild, I went crazy. And so unfortunately, that wasn't going to be the same experience for all my clients. Some of them, now I know this may seem like quite a surprise, but sometimes I can come across as a tad domineering. I don't know. And so it wasn't long before I met my first money slave. Now, this was a guy who didn't want anything intimate. Instead, he just wanted to shower me with money and take me shopping, which sounds brilliant. But we got to a very posh department store on Oxford Street, and when we were in the perfume section, he decided to cry out loudly, "Mistress, please may I take the butt plug out?" I didn't know he had one up there in the first place. And it was then, that's where I learned that you do need a sense of humour to do this job. And it's not just me. Whenever I meet other sex workers, we laugh a lot. And again, it's that same opinion. Well, what could you possibly laugh about? Well, is it the sex? Yeah, we laugh about the sex. Is it the money? Well, we laugh about the sex whilst rolling on the money. But the main thing we laugh about is you. And you don't even know it. But it does bring me to a very serious topic, and it's one of the reasons why I'm here today, because I know that there's actually something that has been affecting millions of people worldwide, and is something that I know there are quite a few of you in here who are living with the shame and the stigma and having to keep this secret from your friends and your family, because I know there are people in this room who are having sex for free. What could have brought you to this desperate decision? And some are saying that the internet is now making it far too easy for people to meet up without any financial remuneration. Websites dedicating to having people meet up without any hourly fee, and they're forced to make small talk, laugh at each other's crap jokes, and then at the end of the meal, you have to split the bill. Even though you had a mains and he definitely had a starter and an extra drink. Fortunately, the sex workers of Twitter, we have gotten together to try and rescue women from this humiliating practice. And if you look under the hashtag of ban freebies, you can see that we are here to highlight the international scandal of unpaid sexual labour. We are hoping to rescue and eradicate freebie-giving women. After all, we all know that giving freebies is bad for the economy. Why? If I had $1 for every time I had sex, that would be a fucking huge pay cut, and I wouldn't bloody do it. And we all know that if you give it away, no other man will want you. How will you ever meet a nice man who wants to pay you, guys? Come on. Now, this is just a little bit of fun that we had on Twitter. But these arguments, these represent the things that we hear every day. Anti-sex work rhetoric that tells us we're wrong and takes away our autonomy. They are trying to tell us that we don't know what we're doing. And it's exacerbated by the media, ill-informed members of the public, and anti-sex work feminists. Now, I'm a feminist, and to me, that means I should fight for the rights of all women, no matter what they do. And I often think that anti-sex work feminist is an oxymoron. I always think that maybe telling feminists that we need to hate sex workers was the greatest trick the patriarchy ever played. So why is it important that you listen to our stories? Well, for one reason is when it comes to making sex work safer, a lot of governments and lawmakers tend to look only at statistics. I mean, come on, you must see that you cannot put our experiences in a numerical value. Not only that, like, we are not going to stand around filling in questionnaires from the government. Also, the numbers get skewed and taken out of context. So I've done plenty of debates on this subject, and this is something that comes up a lot. This quote: the average age of girls entering prostitution is 13. Now, there's a few gasps at that, but you don't know the source. And the source of that quote is actually from a survey that was taken from 210 children, all from abusive backgrounds, and they were all under the age of 18. So it was never going to show that any of them were of the age of consent. And yet that quote gets used to criminalize sex work for millions of women throughout the world. And another thing that it reminds me of is one of my favorite quotes by a journalist called Kevin Myers. And he always says that the prostitution row makes me want to start a charity for abuse statistics. Couldn't agree more, Kev. So, why else is it important for you to listen to us and hear our stories? Well, the other reason is because from where I'm standing, and just to make this frank, from where I am, it doesn't look like you know what the fuck you're doing. I don't mean in the bedroom department. I'm sure you're fine. For amateurs. No. I mean, how can you talk to us? How can you listen to us? How can you make laws about us when you don't even know what to call us? Are we prostitutes? Are we escorts? Are we sex workers? Let me give you my definition. To me, a sex worker is someone who is selling sex willingly and without coercion. To me, a sex worker is not someone who is being abused or is under threat of violence. Those people are victims. Those people have been prostituted. And it's those people that sex worker rights activists fight for because they are the ones who suffer the most from the stigmatization of the sex industry. And stigma is that little thing that might have been inside your head that says we need to eradicate this. We need to save the women involved. No one can be doing this of their own choice. And stigma is made from stereotypes, misrepresentation, and stigma kills. Because stigma is also that thing that is in an abuser's brain. And they say to themselves, doesn't matter what I do to her. I know that she is too afraid to go to the police in case what they do to her instead. And they're right. Yes, we need to help victims of abuse, but by criminalising a whole industry, we push it further underground and we make everyone more vulnerable. Instead, by listening to sex workers and hearing our voices, you stand to make the industry safer for everyone. So what is it we're trying to say? Well, I can only speak for myself personally, but I believe we should all be able to have safe, sane, and consensual sex without fear, shame, or judgment, whether you're doing it for free or not. I want to be able to work in a job that I enjoy and consent to without fear of persecution or prosecution. I want us to be able to work together, to have decriminalisation so that we can report abuse without fear of our own freedom, so that we can unionise and we can report sexual violence against us without anyone saying, well, you brought it on yourself. So I want you... Thank you. Our experiences cannot be told to you using numbers and figures and surveys. It's up to you to listen to us. If there is a news report about sex work, is a sex worker talking? No, turn it off. Is there a magazine article featuring a sex worker? No, put it away. Is that person on stage a sex worker or of experience in the industry? Yes, great, listen to her, learn something, maybe buy her a drink afterwards because she's really nervous. But write stories about us and talk to us. If you want to make laws about us, consult us. There should be nothing about us without us. Thank you.